In Spain, Manel and his wife Julia are driving home together. Julia brings up the idea of having children, as she needs to know Manel's thoughts so they can plan their future. They start arguing and both get distracted. Suddenly, Julia has to steer quickly to avoid another car coming their way. But it's too late. Their car ends up in the middle of the road and is struck by a massive truck, flipping it over. A year later, Manel, now a widower, lives alone with his cat. On TV, news reporters talk about the UN considering closing borders because of a strange virus spreading fast. Preventive measures aren't helping, and people at the borders are getting violent, desperate to flee. Manel, still grieving, barely notices and even mutes the TV. He misses a broadcast showing security footage of a patient slowly turning into a zombie at a hospital. Later, Manel takes his car out for a drive, noticing an ambulance speeding by and walls covered with graffiti, warning that the end is near. He reaches the harbor to meet two women interested in buying his boat, which he hasn't used since Julia's death. While searching for the boat's documents, Manel finds Julia's bracelet, bringing back a wave of bittersweet memories. On the way home, he gets a call from his sister, but chooses to ignore it. He stops at the supermarket and notices people frantically buying food, almost emptying the shelves. Later at home, Manel ties Julia's bracelet around his cat's neck, while hearing on TV that the virus has now appeared in Spain. In the evening, Manel video calls his sister Belen, who has important news. Since her husband works for the government, her family is being transferred to the Canary Islands, and she invites Manel to come along, but he decides to stay. The next day, Manel notices that all his neighbors are packing up and leaving, so he decides to follow their lead, taking his cat with him. While driving, he hears on the radio that a new variant of the virus is spreading quickly through Europe. This new strain makes people sick within minutes and spreads through bites and wounds. At the airport, Manel sends a message to Belen, saying he'll join her after all. As people try to board the plane, tickets start getting denied without explanation, and the crowd gets angry, yelling at an employee who doesn't have any answers. Suddenly, the big screen shows that all flights are canceled, and everyone receives a phone alert about a civil security warning. Panic breaks out as people try to force their way onto the plane. Manel gets a call from Belen, telling him to go back home and stay inside until further news. Just then, a man grabs a gun from the guards and threatens to shoot, causing the crowd to scramble out of the airport in fear. As everyone tries to rush back home, Manel gets stuck in traffic, and the radio reports that roads and bridges are completely jammed. Military helicopters fly overhead, and people start abandoning their cars, arguing with each other. The news announces that the military has pulled back due to riots, with many soldiers injured in the chaos. Eventually, many drivers get fed up with waiting and start leaving their cars to walk. Manel grabs his cat and decides to do the same. By night, he reaches his neighborhood and sees soldiers surrounding a building where they've set up a special tunnel to a house. Strange noises come from inside, and Manel is horrified as two soldiers lead a zombie out of the house through the tunnel, while a woman cries for her sick husband outside. The zombie is taken away in a military truck, and Manel realizes he knows the man. He heads home afterward and falls asleep. That night, Manel dreams about the accident and Julia's death. The next morning, Belen video calls him, saying they're setting up safe zones to relocate people. But there's tension in the army. Bringing in more people means a higher risk of the virus entering these zones, and other countries have already struggled with this plan. She urges Manel to stay home no matter what. Soon, all major cities declare quarantine and stop letting people enter for safety, sparking more riots. The virus is spreading fast, and people start spotting zombies attacking others around the neighborhood, recording it for social media. Others post videos with DIY tips on making armor and self-defense. That afternoon, the government announces a state of emergency with strict new rules. All businesses must close by 2 p.m., and citizens may be called to help the military. The next time Manel goes to the supermarket, the shelves are almost empty, and people are grabbing food from each other's hands. Manel takes whatever he can find, and as he leaves, he sees fighter jets flying overhead. He then stops at a gas station to pick up more supplies. Just then, a wounded cop stumbles in, bumps into Manel, and locks himself inside the station's store, using his handcuffs to seal the doors. Soon, more people arrive, running and screaming for help. Suddenly, a zombie attacks another officer, biting his face. Manel grabs a mop to defend himself, but just as the zombie lunges toward him, the fallen officer shoots it, spraying zombie blood onto Manel's face. Inside the store, the injured cop starts pounding on the glass as he begins transforming. Manel, shaken, thinks of checking on the fallen officer, who fires a shot at the ground to keep Manel away. After Manel grabs his things and leaves, the cop takes his own life. Later that day, the president finally appears on TV, announcing a stricter lockdown. Anyone refusing to cooperate with the army's evacuation will face criminal charges. Following online guides, Manel uses his tools to strengthen the walls of his house and installs a security camera. That evening, the army arrives in Manel's neighborhood to evacuate people, but Belen sends him a message, urging him to stay hidden and promising to rescue him soon. Manel turns off the lights and hides with his cat as soldiers pound on his door. Thankfully, the soldiers don't break down his door or spot him at the window, so they leave. 2 weeks later, Manel is low on food and can't call his sister anymore because there's no phone service. After a lot of hesitation, he grabs some tools for self-defense, layers up his clothes, and finally leaves his home. He breaks into several houses looking for food, but finds nothing. After hours of searching, he enters a house and meets an elderly woman named Gabriela, who couldn't evacuate because she's in a wheelchair. She doesn't have food either, but she knows which neighbors might have stocked up before the lockdown. Manel checks every house on her list and finally finds food and other supplies, including a bike. With the bike, Manel feels brave enough to travel farther and gets a good amount of food, which he shares with Gabriela. He also gives her a walkie-talkie so they can talk while he's out. There's only one house left to check, the one where the soldiers found a zombie. Manel doesn't find any food, only a tank with dead fish. Suddenly, he senses someone behind him and quickly fires, thinking it's a zombie. It's actually a regular person who runs away, thinking Manel is dangerous. Before leaving, Manel checks one last cupboard and finally finds more food. Days go by, and Manel and Gabriela often meet up to share meals together. One night, Manel gets drunk and sends Gabriela a message, saying he regrets not spending more time with his family. Then he dreams about the accident again, remembering how they were airlifted to the hospital. He's suddenly woken up by Gabriela on the walkie-talkie, telling him to turn on the radio. Manel turns it on and hears an announcement saying they're sending survivors to the Canary Islands, along with coordinates for the rescue group's location. Gabriela is skeptical, but Manel reminds her they're running low on food. The group seems to be near the Arauza estuary, and Manel suggests they could reach it with his boat. Gabriela hesitates, saying she'd only slow him down. Manel refuses to leave her behind and promises to look after her. The next morning, he worries when Gabriela doesn't respond to his calls. Rushing over, he finds that she has taken her own life. She left him a note, thanking him for their time together and urging him to save himself. On his way back, Manel is suddenly attacked by a zombie that manages to knock his weapon out of his hand. After struggling, Manel kicks the zombie off and jumps onto a car. But the zombie grabs his leg, trying to pull him down. The fight goes on as the zombie bites Manel's arm, but it doesn't break through thanks to his protective layers, although it spits blood onto his face. Manel manages to open the car door and slams it on the zombie, pinning its head in the broken glass. Then, Manel runs to grab his weapon and shoots, just as the zombie breaks free. Afterward, he takes her ID from her wallet and places it on her chest in case the authorities find her. Back at home, he boils water to clean his weapon and sends another message to Belen, saying he can't wait for her any longer, but there's still no service. Manel then leaves on his bike with his cat, speeding down the empty roads. Eventually, he reaches a roadblock and is forced to cut through the forests. Zombies start chasing him, but they aren't fast enough to catch up. Sometimes they try to leap at him, so Manel has to stay alert and dodge. When he finds an abandoned camp, he fears what might be there, but has no other way out. As he crosses, a huge horde of zombie campers emerges, so Manel speeds up, dodging them and the scattered camping gear. He makes it through the camp without getting bitten and reaches another road, only to find a pile of bodies blocking the way. He's going too fast to stop in time and ends up falling off the bike. Luckily, the cat is safe in his crate. Hearing zombies getting closer, Manel quickly gets back on the bike, but it won't start, so he has no choice but to run. He sprints through the forest as fast as he can, with zombies right on his heels. Finally, he reaches the harbor and crosses a bridge, shutting the gate behind him. The zombies soon start pounding on the glass until it breaks, and they cross over, but by then, Manel has gone through a stronger gate and finally manages to escape. At first, Manel feels hopeless because he sees that all the boats at the harbor are gone. But after searching around, he spots an abandoned boat floating far out on the water. Manel swims out to it and tries the engine, but the boat won't start. Then he hears a sound, opens a door, and finds a zombie baby trapped in a chair. Manel and his cat decide to leave on a small raft instead. He heads toward the location from the radio message, but finds it destroyed. No matter how far he goes from shore, there's still no signal, but he keeps recording messages for his sister. That night, the raft stops in the middle of the journey. When Manel checks the engine, he finds a body tangled in it. Just then, he sees a bright light coming closer, and he waves and shouts for help. It turns out to be a boat with Ukrainian men, who agree to let him join them. Manel and his cat are brought onto a large ship and given food. The only man who speaks Spanish, Victor, explains that the Canaries were quarantined, and the authorities wouldn't let evacuated people disembark, which is why there are so many zombies on land. Manel is given a room after promising to help them search for supplies in the morning. In the middle of the night, Manel hears voices and looks out the window to see some survivors on a nearby boat asking for help. The next morning, Manel asks about the new survivors, but Victor insists that no one came last night. Then, Manel is called to the captain's office to help locate important buildings on a map, like hospitals and factories. Later, Manel discovers that the boat he saw last night is actually on the ship, and the crew has taken the survivors' belongings. He questions Victor about it, but Victor refuses to explain. Since Victor is a pilot, Manel tells him where to find a helicopter, but Victor warns him to keep quiet and stop asking questions. That evening, Manel explores the ship and notices it's carrying all the boats taken from different survivors. He gathers his things and hides his cat in his bag to sneak around. In a room below deck, he finds 2 survivors tied up. Manel quickly frees the first man, but as soon as he stands, a guard shoots him. Victor arrives and tries to disarm the guard, and during their struggle, the gun goes off, damaging nearby items. The fight turns physical, and Victor finally grabs a rope, choking the guard until he's dead. Now, Victor wants to escape too, and agrees to help find the helicopter. Manel, Victor, and the other survivors sneak carefully through the ship until they reach a boat. Just as they're about to leave, 2 guards open fire, killing the other survivor. As the boat speeds away, Victor fires back at the guards, but he gets hit in the shoulder. Manel pushes the boat to go faster, and they manage to escape before they're killed. Soon, they reach the shore, and Manel helps Victor walk. They come across some cars, with zombies trapped inside one, which Manel quickly takes care of. Then he, Victor, and the cat get into a car and drive toward the hospital, where Julia died. As Manel remembers, there's a helicopter there. During the drive, Victor tells him that the ship's captain was a cruel man, building a private refuge on an island. Only people who served him could live there, and he kept the women and children for his own pleasure. When they finally reach the hospital, Manel is heartbroken to find that the helicopter is gone. Suddenly, a zombie jumps on the car, so Manel drives wildly to shake it off. Then he uses Victor's gun to kill it, and the noise attracts more zombies, which Manel quickly shoots down. Afterward, Manel and the cat enter the hospital, where he searches for something to remove the bullet from Victor's shoulder. Then, he hears voices coming from the first floor and heads upstairs. He spots a zombie nearby and hides before he's noticed. The voices seem to come from the vents, so Manel calls out to them, but another zombie sneaks up behind him. Manel quickly pushes it away and shoots it, but more zombies burst through the doors. He quickly runs back to the first room and locks the doors behind him to keep the zombies out. To his surprise, Victor and the cat aren't where he left them. Just then, a chute opens, and Lucia calls out for him to join her. They close the chute just in time as the zombies break through the other doors. Manel is taken to an infirmary where Nurse Lucia and Sister Cecilia are caring for Victor, the cat, and 3 children. The women treat Victor's wound and make sure he's stable. When Manel mentions the helicopter, Lucia explains it's behind the hospital in a quarantine zone full of zombies. That night, they all share the small amount of food they have, and Manel can't stop thinking about his wife. He visits the room where she died and recalls their last moments together. He takes the bracelet off the cat and ties it to Julia's bed. The next morning, Manel goes up to the roof to watch the zombies. Suddenly, his phone gets a signal, and he receives all the messages Belen sent over the past few weeks. While recording a reply, he hears gunfire and sees the ship's crew killing zombies to enter the hospital. Manel hurries to warn the group about the danger, and they decide to try using the hospital basement to reach the helicopter. The basement is filled with bodies and smoke, so they cover their mouths and noses as they go. Unfortunately, the door is stuck and they have to break it open with an axe. A zombie suddenly appears and tackles Cecilia, biting her. Manel pulls it off and burns its face on a hot pipe. Then, Lucia finishes it off with the axe. Since Cecilia is now infected, she tells the group to go on without her and stays behind. The group moves through a hallway and sees zombies blocked by some furniture. Lucia opens a door quietly, but a child whispers upon seeing her mother among the zombies. Luckily, they aren't heard and start heading toward the door, but a zombie knocks over some shelves. The noise alerts the zombies, so Manel hides with the child in a cabinet, while the others take cover behind the door. The zombies pound on the cabinet, and it looks like it's over for Manel, but then the ship's crew arrives and shoots down all the zombies in minutes. After a brief argument, the crew leaves without noticing the group. The group finally reaches the last door and sees the yard full of zombies. Remembering a tip from an online tutorial, Manel ties cages together to use as a shield as they cross. At first it works, but when the cages get stuck, the noise draws the zombies' attention. Lucia uses her axe, and Manel uses a fire extinguisher to keep the zombies back, while Victor pushes the cages forward. It's slow, but with a lot of effort, they make it to the gate. Lucia breaks the chain with her axe and stays with Manel to hold back the zombies, while Victor runs with the kids to the helicopter. After a lot of effort, Lucia and Manel manage to close the gate and secure it with a scarf before running to join the others. Victor tries to start the helicopter, but it won't work, and the zombies begin climbing over the fence. Manel steps out to fight them, just as Victor finds an unplugged cable, reconnects it, and gets the helicopter running. The engine noise draws the crew's attention, and they rush into the yard, shooting down zombies. They cut the scarf to open the gate and threaten to shoot if the group doesn't cooperate. Victor carefully nods at Manel, who breaks another chain to open a second gate. A new horde of zombies floods into the yard, quickly surrounding and attacking the crew. Some zombies also approach the helicopter, so Victor hovers it to knock them back. Manel fights his way through the horde, using the axe to clear a path. The helicopter is ready to leave, but once the zombies are dealt with, Lucia throws down a ladder, and Manel climbs up to join his friends and his cat. A few hours later, as the helicopter nears the Canary Islands, Manel gets a call from Belen, warning him not to come. Just then, 2 fighter jets fly by, confirming that the islands are infected too. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this.